Have you ever felt like something was just off in a relationship? Perhaps you've experienced moments where your partner's behavior left you feeling confused, hurt, or even manipulated, but you couldn't quite put your finger on what was happening. Sometimes we brush off these red flags, hoping that things will improve or that we're simply overreacting. However, there are certain behaviors that go beyond normal relationship ups and downs, warning signs that reveal the presence of truly toxic or even evil individuals. These people don't just make mistakes, they consistently engage in patterns that erode your sense of self, manipulate your emotions, and ultimately, drain your spirit. In this video, we're diving deep into the warning signs that you may be dealing with a toxic person in your life, from manipulation tactics and emotional abuse to controlling behaviors and constant blame games. These red flags are not just minor annoyances. They are significant indicators that you are dealing with someone who does not have your best interests at heart. Understanding these behaviors isn't just about spotting a bad partner. It's about reclaiming your power, protecting your mental and emotional well-being, and ensuring that you are never held hostage in a relationship where you feel less than you are. Stay tuned as we reveal the dark secrets of how toxic individuals operate, and most importantly, how you can identify and break free from their grasp, because your peace, happiness, and freedom should never be compromised. 1. Constantly manipulates or controls. Manipulation and control are key traits of toxic or harmful individuals in relationships. When someone is constantly manipulating or controlling their partner, it means they are trying to dominate the relationship and maintain power over the other person. This behavior can manifest in many forms and often starts subtly, making it hard to recognize at first. Over time, however, manipulation can escalate, leaving the victim feeling trapped, confused, and emotionally drained. A manipulative person may use various tactics to control their partner's thoughts, feelings, and actions. One common method is emotional manipulation, where they exploit their partner's emotions to achieve their own ends. This might involve guilt tripping, where they make the partner feel responsible for their happiness or well-being, or playing the victim to avoid accountability for their actions. For instance, if confronted about a problematic behavior, they may twist the situation around and make their partner feel guilty for even bringing it up, thus deflecting blame and maintaining control. Another manipulation tactic is gaslighting, a form of psychological abuse where the manipulator makes the victim question their own reality, memory, or perceptions. They may deny things they've said or done, accuse their partner of being overly sensitive or paranoid, or even fabricate events to confuse them. Over time, the victim may begin to doubt their own judgment and rely more on the manipulator's version of reality, which gives the manipulator more control. Isolation is another key strategy used by manipulative people. They may try to cut their partner off from friends, family, or anyone who could provide support or a reality check. This isolation makes the victim more dependent on the manipulator and less likely to seek help or advice from others. The manipulator may use jealousy or possessiveness as a guise for this isolation, suggesting that they are acting out of love or concern, but their real motive is to control who the partner interacts with and how they view their social world. Financial control is another form of manipulation. The manipulative partner may control access to money, monitor spending, or withhold financial support to ensure that their partner is dependent on them. This can make it extremely difficult for the victim to leave the relationship, even if they want to. Ultimately, the goal of a manipulative person is to undermine their partner's autonomy and self-esteem, making it easier to control them. Recognizing these signs early on is crucial for maintaining healthy boundaries and avoiding toxic relationships. If someone constantly manipulates or controls their partner, it's a red flag that should not be ignored. 2. Gaslights and distorts reality. Gaslighting is a particularly insidious form of emotional abuse where a person manipulates someone else into doubting their own perceptions, memories, and reality. This term comes from the 1944 film Gaslight, where a husband manipulates his wife into thinking she is losing her mind by dimming the gas lights in their home and denying it when she notices. In relationships, gaslighting is a common tactic used by toxic or harmful individuals to maintain control and power over their partners by creating confusion and self-doubt. The primary aim of gaslighting is to destabilize the victim's sense of reality. It often begins subtly, with the gaslighter denying things they've said or done, even when there's evidence to the contrary. For example, if a partner confronts the gaslighter about hurtful comments they made, the gaslighter may respond with, "I never said that," "You're imagining things," or "You're being too sensitive. It was just a joke." This tactic makes the victim second-guess their own recollections and feelings, eventually leading them to trust the gaslighter's version of events more than their own. Gaslighters also use a tactic called countering, where they question the victim's memory, even about minor events. This could involve saying things like, "Are you sure that's what happened? You always have a bad memory," or "I think you're mixing things up again." By repeatedly questioning the victim's memory, the gaslighter sows seeds of doubt and confusion, causing the victim to lose confidence in their own recollection of events. Another common form of gaslighting is trivializing or dismissing the victim's feelings. The gaslighter may say things like, "You're overreacting," "You're too emotional," or "Stop being so dramatic," when the victim tries to express their feelings or concerns. This behavior invalidates the victim's emotions and suggests that their feelings are not valid or reasonable. Over time, the victim may start to believe that their emotions are irrational and undeserving of attention, further eroding their self-esteem. Projection is another technique often used in gaslighting. The gaslighter accuses the victim of doing things that they themselves are guilty of, like lying or being manipulative. This deflection shifts the focus away from the gaslighter's behavior and confuses the victim, making them feel like they are the ones at fault. The effects of gaslighting can be devastating. Victims often feel confused, anxious, isolated, and unable to trust themselves. They may become overly dependent on the gaslighter for validation, constantly seeking reassurance and approval. This dependency strengthens the gaslighter's control over the relationship. Breaking free from gaslighting involves recognizing the signs and understanding that the manipulative behavior is intentional and not a reflection of reality. It often requires external support, whether from friends, family, or professionals, to help the victim rebuild their self-trust and regain a healthy perspective. Awareness and early detection are crucial to prevent long-term psychological harm. If gaslighting is present in a relationship, it's a major warning sign that the relationship is toxic and potentially dangerous. 3. Lies frequently and with ease. One of the most telling signs of a toxic or harmful individual in a relationship is their tendency to lie frequently and with ease. Habitual lying is often used as a tool for manipulation, control, and self-preservation. These individuals use dishonesty to create a false narrative, maintain power, avoid accountability, and manipulate others to serve their own needs and desires. This type of behavior is highly damaging to trust and can cause significant emotional harm to the victim. Frequent liars often use a range of lies, from minor fabrications to major deceptions, to keep their partners off balance and under control. They might lie about seemingly trivial things, like where they've been, who they've been with, or what they've been doing. These small lies serve to create confusion and establish a pattern of deception that makes it difficult for their partner to distinguish between truth and falsehood. Over time, the accumulation of these small lies can erode the foundation of trust that any healthy relationship relies on. Lying is also used as a means to deflect blame and avoid responsibility for one's actions. A toxic person might lie to cover up their mistakes, wrongdoings, or betrayals. For example, they may deny having said something hurtful or claim they never committed an act that caused harm, even when confronted with evidence. By doing this, they seek to protect themselves from criticism or consequences, making it impossible for their partner to hold them accountable. This continuous pattern of deception forces the victim into a state of constant doubt and confusion, wondering if they are the problem or if they are overreacting. Another way habitual liars manipulate through lying is by creating a false persona or narrative to keep their partner hooked. They might exaggerate their accomplishments, make grand promises they have no intention of keeping, or portray themselves as a victim in various situations to elicit sympathy and control the narrative. These lies are often carefully crafted to appeal to their partner's emotions, desires, or vulnerabilities, making it easier for them to gain trust and influence. Over time, the partner may become emotionally invested in a version of the person that doesn't exist, only to be devastated when the truth eventually comes to light. Frequent liars are also skilled at shifting the blame. When caught in a lie, they might accuse their partner of being paranoid, distrustful, or even the liar themselves. This tactic, known as projection, allows them to avoid confronting their dishonesty and instead puts their partner on the defensive. This manipulative strategy not only confuses the victim, but also serves to distract from the liar's behavior and maintain control. The consequences of being in a relationship with a frequent liar can be profound. Trust is the foundation of any healthy relationship, and constant lying undermines this foundation. It can lead to a breakdown of communication, create emotional distance, and foster an environment of insecurity, anxiety, and mistrust. Victims may find themselves constantly questioning their partner's words and actions, doubting their own perceptions, and feeling isolated and unsure of whom to trust. Breaking free from the cycle of lies involves recognizing the pattern of dishonesty and understanding that it is a deliberate form of manipulation. It may require setting firm boundaries, seeking support from friends, family, or a therapist, and, in many cases, deciding to leave the relationship to preserve one's mental and emotional well-being. If someone lies frequently and with ease, it's a major red flag that should not be ignored. 4. Displays narcissistic behaviors. Narcissistic behaviors in relationships are a significant red flag indicating a potentially toxic or harmful individual. Narcissism, in this context, goes beyond mere self-confidence or occasional self-centeredness. It involves a consistent pattern of behaviors characterized by excessive self-importance, a lack of empathy, a need for admiration, and an inability to handle criticism. Narcissistic individuals often prioritize their own needs and desires above others, manipulate those around them to get what they want, and have an inflated sense of entitlement and superiority. One of the core characteristics of narcissistic behavior is a sense of grandiosity. Narcissistic people often believe they are better, smarter, or more talented than others, and will go to great lengths to reinforce this perception. They tend to exaggerate their achievements and talents, and expect to be recognized as superior even without commensurate achievements. This grandiosity makes it difficult for them to see others as equals or to accept any form of criticism. In relationships, this can manifest as constant boasting, putting others down to elevate themselves, or being dismissive of their partner's achievements or opinions. Another hallmark of narcissistic behavior is a profound lack of empathy. Narcissists often struggle to recognize or care about the feelings, needs, or experiences of others. This lack of empathy makes it easy for them to manipulate, exploit, or hurt their partners without remorse. In a relationship, this can mean dismissing a partner's feelings, invalidating their experiences, or failing to provide emotional support when needed. For example, a narcissistic person might show little concern when their partner is upset or stressed, instead focusing the conversation back on themselves or minimizing their partner's issues. Narcissistic individuals also have an insatiable need for admiration and validation. They thrive on attention, praise, and external approval. In relationships, this can translate to constantly seeking compliments or reassurance from their partner or others, and becoming angry or defensive if they don't receive the validation they crave. This need for admiration can lead them to engage in behaviors designed to garner attention, such as exaggerating their problems, creating unnecessary drama, or even flirting with others to provoke jealousy. Manipulation is another key feature of narcissistic behavior. Narcissists are often skilled manipulators who use a variety of tactics, such as gaslighting, lying, or playing the victim, to maintain control over their partners and keep them emotionally invested in the relationship. They may also use tactics like love bombing at the beginning of a relationship, overwhelming their partner with excessive attention, flattery, and affection to create a deep emotional attachment. However, this affection is often conditional and can quickly turn to criticism, neglect, or abuse when the narcissist no longer feels they are getting the admiration or compliance they desire. A sense of entitlement is also a defining trait of narcissistic behavior. Narcissistic individuals often believe they deserve special treatment or that the rules that apply to others do not apply to them. In relationships, this can manifest as expecting their partner to cater to their needs without reciprocation, demanding constant attention, or becoming enraged when things do not go their way. This entitlement can make it difficult to establish healthy boundaries, as the narcissistic person may view any attempt to set limits as a personal affront or an act of defiance. Being in a relationship with a narcissistic individual can be emotionally exhausting and damaging. Victims often find themselves constantly trying to appease the narcissist, walking on eggshells to avoid conflict, and sacrificing their own needs to keep the peace. Over time, this can lead to a loss of self-esteem, emotional exhaustion, and a sense of isolation. Recognizing narcissistic behaviors early on is crucial for protecting oneself from emotional manipulation and abuse. Setting firm boundaries, seeking external support, and prioritizing one's own emotional well-being are key steps in dealing with a narcissistic person. If these behaviors are present in a relationship, it's a strong indication that the relationship is unhealthy and potentially dangerous. 5. Is overly possessive or jealous. Overly possessive or jealous behavior is a major warning sign of a toxic or harmful individual in a relationship. While some degree of jealousy is natural and can occur in any relationship, excessive jealousy and possessiveness go far beyond normal concerns. These behaviors are often rooted in insecurity, control, and a lack of trust, and they can quickly escalate into emotional or even physical abuse. An overly possessive person seeks to dominate their partner's life, often under the guise of love or protection, creating a suffocating environment that severely restricts the partner's autonomy and well-being. One of the most common manifestations of possessiveness is an obsession with controlling a partner's actions, whereabouts, and associations. An overly possessive individual may insist on knowing where their partner is at all times, who they are with, and what they are doing. They might demand constant updates, phone calls, or messages to monitor their partner's activities. This behavior is often presented as concern or care, but it is actually a way to exert control and ensure that the partner does not engage in any activities that the possessive person deems threatening or undesirable. Jealousy and possessiveness can also lead to isolation. A possessive partner may attempt to cut their partner off from friends, family, or colleagues to prevent any perceived competition for attention or affection. They may become hostile or angry if their partner spends time with others, even if those relationships are healthy and normal. Over time, this isolation tactic makes the partner more dependent on the possessive individual for emotional support and validation, which reinforces the toxic power dynamic within the relationship. Another way possessiveness manifests is through the constant questioning of a partner's loyalty or intentions. A possessive person may frequently accuse their partner of flirting, cheating, or having inappropriate relationships, even when there is no evidence to support these claims. This can lead to the partner feeling constantly scrutinized, judged, and mistrusted, which creates an atmosphere of anxiety and fear. The possessive individual often uses these baseless accusations to justify their controlling behavior, claiming that they are simply trying to protect the relationship from betrayal. Possessiveness can also be evident in the demand for exclusivity beyond normal relationship boundaries. For example, a possessive partner might become upset or angry if their partner speaks to someone of the opposite sex, engages in activities without them, or even shows interest in hobbies or pursuits that do not directly involve them. This extreme need for exclusivity can suffocate the partner's personal growth, freedom, and individuality, leading them to feel trapped and unable to express themselves. Moreover, overly possessive individuals often use emotional manipulation to maintain control. They may employ tactics like guilt-tripping, emotional blackmail, or playing the victim to make their partner feel responsible for their insecurities or fears. For instance, they might say things like, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't need to spend time with anyone else." Or, "I feel like you don't care about me when you're not around." These manipulative statements are designed to instill guilt and make the partner feel obligated to comply with their demands. The consequences of being in a relationship with an overly possessive or jealous person can be damaging. Over time, the constant control, scrutiny, and emotional manipulation can erode a person's self-esteem and sense of independence. The victim may begin to internalize the possessive person's insecurities and feel responsible for their behavior, leading to a cycle of emotional dependency and compliance. This environment can be psychologically and emotionally exhausting, often resulting in feelings of anxiety, depression, and helplessness. Recognizing overly possessive or jealous behavior early in a relationship is crucial for maintaining one's autonomy and emotional health. Setting firm boundaries, seeking external support, and understanding that possessiveness is not a sign of love, but of control, are vital steps in addressing this toxic behavior. If such behaviors are present, it is essential to evaluate the relationship's health and consider the potential risks involved. 6. Disrespects boundaries. Disrespecting boundaries is a clear indication of a toxic or harmful individual in a relationship. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding of each other's personal, emotional, and physical boundaries. When someone continually disrespects these boundaries, it reflects a lack of regard for their partner's autonomy, feelings, and well-being. This behavior often stems from a desire to control, manipulate, or dominate the relationship, ultimately creating an unhealthy and potentially dangerous dynamic. One of the most common ways toxic individuals disrespect boundaries is by dismissing or ignoring their partner's expressed limits. For example, if a person has set a boundary around personal space or alone time, a disrespectful partner might constantly intrude, insist on spending every moment together, or invade their privacy by checking their phone, emails, or social media without permission. This disregard for personal boundaries is often framed as care, concern, or a desire for closeness. But it is a way of exerting control and minimizing the partner's need for independence. Emotional boundaries are another area frequently violated by toxic individuals. Emotional boundaries involve respecting each other's feelings, needs, and emotional experiences. A partner who disrespects these boundaries may belittle or invalidate their partner's emotions, make them feel guilty for expressing their feelings, or push them to share more than they are comfortable with. For instance, if a partner shares that they need time to process their emotions after a conflict, a boundary, disrespecting individual might continue to push for immediate resolution or dismiss their feelings as unimportant or irrational. This behavior undermines the victim's emotional autonomy and creates an environment where they feel they cannot express themselves freely. Physical boundaries are also often disrespected by toxic individuals, especially when it comes to intimacy or personal space. A partner who disrespects physical boundaries may pressure their partner into physical affection or sexual activity when they are not comfortable, ignore their no or reluctance, or engage in unwanted physical contact. This form of boundary violation is not only disrespectful but can also be deeply traumatizing, leaving the victim feeling violated, unsafe, and powerless. Another way toxic individuals disregard boundaries is by overstepping financial or practical boundaries. This could involve pressuring their partner to share finances, take on debts, or make significant life decisions without proper discussion and mutual agreement. They may also disregard their partner's boundaries regarding personal belongings, such as using or taking things without asking. These actions create a sense of entitlement over their partner's life and choices, leaving them feeling controlled and disregarded. Disrespecting boundaries often involves manipulation and guilt tripping. A toxic partner may make their partner feel guilty for asserting their boundaries, suggesting that boundaries are a sign of distrust, selfishness, or lack of love. They might say things like, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't need so much time alone." Or, "Why do you need privacy? I thought we were supposed to share everything." These manipulative tactics are designed to make the victim question their own needs and feel obligated to comply with the toxic person's demands. The impact of having one's boundaries consistently disrespected can be profound. It can lead to a loss of self-esteem, anxiety, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. Victims may start to feel as though their needs are unimportant or unreasonable, and may gradually lose their sense of self as they are constantly forced to prioritize the needs and desires of the boundary-disrespecting partner. This can also create a cycle of dependency, where the victim becomes more reliant on the toxic partner for validation and approval, further entrenching the unhealthy power dynamic. Recognizing the signs of boundary disrespect early in a relationship is crucial for maintaining one's autonomy and well-being. Healthy relationships require clear communication, mutual respect for boundaries, and a willingness to accept and honor each other's needs. If someone repeatedly disrespects your boundaries, it is a significant warning sign that the relationship may be toxic. Setting firm boundaries, seeking support, and understanding that boundary violations are not a sign of love, but control, are key steps in addressing this issue. 7. Uses guilt to control or influence. Using guilt as a means to control or influence is a manipulative tactic often employed by toxic individuals in relationships. This behavior involves making the other person feel responsible for the manipulator's emotions, actions, or well-being. By leveraging guilt, the manipulator can bend the partner's behavior to fit their desires and needs, often without the partner even realizing it. This tactic is deeply harmful as it erodes the victim's sense of autonomy, self-esteem, and ability to make independent decisions, creating an unhealthy and emotionally draining dynamic. One common method of using guilt to control is through emotional blackmail. In emotional blackmail, a manipulative partner will use statements like, "If you really loved me, you would do this for me," or, "After everything I've done for you, how can you say no?" These statements are designed to make the victim feel obligated to comply with the manipulator's wishes to avoid feeling guilty or selfish. This type of manipulation plays on the victim's empathy and desire to be caring and supportive, ultimately coercing them into actions or decisions they may not want to make. Another way guilt is used as a tool for control is by playing the victim. A toxic person might consistently present themselves as wronged, mistreated, or misunderstood, regardless of the reality of the situation. They may say things like, "You're always against me," or, "I guess I'm just not important to you." These statements are crafted to make the victim feel guilty for allegedly causing pain or neglect, pushing them to overcompensate by prioritizing the manipulator's needs or desires. This tactic can be especially effective because it taps into the natural human instinct to nurture and repair perceived harm, even when that harm is fabricated or exaggerated. Guilt tripping can also occur in the form of bringing up past mistakes or perceived wrongs to manipulate the victim's current behavior. The toxic individual may continually remind their partner of a mistake they made, suggesting that they owe them for it. For example, they might say, "Remember when you hurt me that time? You need to make up for it by doing this." This technique creates a sense of debt and obligation, causing the victim to feel that they must constantly atone for their past actions by complying with the manipulator's current demands. Moreover, guilt can be used to stifle the partner's needs and assertiveness. A toxic individual might respond to a partner's attempt to set boundaries or express their needs by making them feel selfish or inconsiderate. They might say things like, "I can't believe you would prioritize yourself over us," or "I never ask you for anything, but now that I do, you're not there for me." This kind of manipulation makes the victim second-guess their right to assert their needs, leaving them feeling as if they are always in the wrong. The use of guilt as a manipulative tool can lead to serious emotional and psychological consequences for the victim. Over time, the victim may begin to internalize the manipulator's accusations and come to believe they are truly selfish, uncaring, or perpetually in the wrong. This erosion of self-esteem can make it increasingly difficult for the victim to set healthy boundaries, recognize the manipulation, or feel justified in their feelings and decisions. The constant pressure to appease the manipulator can lead to anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of inadequacy. Breaking free from a relationship where guilt is used as a tool for control requires recognizing the manipulative patterns and understanding that this behavior is not normal or acceptable. It is important to assert one's boundaries clearly and confidently, and to resist the urge to justify or defend against unreasonable guilt tripping. Seeking support from trusted friends, family, or a mental health professional can also provide the perspective and encouragement needed to navigate such a toxic dynamic. Ultimately, recognizing the use of guilt as a manipulation tactic is a crucial step toward regaining autonomy, self-worth, and emotional freedom in a relationship. 8. Blames others for their actions. A key sign of a toxic or harmful individual in a relationship is their tendency to consistently blame others for their actions, behaviors, or mistakes. Instead of taking responsibility for their actions, these individuals deflect blame onto their partner or others around them. This tactic serves multiple purposes. It avoids accountability, manipulates the partner into feeling guilty, and maintains control over the narrative in the relationship. Blaming others is a form of emotional manipulation that creates confusion, insecurity, and self-doubt in the victim, ultimately allowing the toxic person to evade the consequences of their actions. One common method of shifting blame is through the tactic of projection. Projection involves attributing one's own negative behaviors, feelings, or motives to someone else. For example, a toxic person who is unfaithful might accuse their partner of being untrustworthy or constantly question their loyalty. By projecting their own behavior onto their partner, they divert attention away from their actions and create a smokescreen that confuses and distorts reality. This not only deflects responsibility, but also puts the victim on the defensive, making them feel as though they have to prove their innocence. Another form of blame shifting is playing the victim. In this scenario, the toxic individual twists situations to present themselves as the wronged party, even when they are the one who has caused harm. For example, if they are confronted about their hurtful behavior, they might respond with, "I can't believe you would think that of me," or "You're always attacking me." By positioning themselves as the victim, they not only avoid accountability, but also manipulate their partner into feeling guilty or sympathetic. This tactic is particularly effective because it taps into the victim's empathy and desire to be caring and supportive, making them less likely to hold the toxic person accountable. Toxic individuals also frequently use the "you made me do it" tactic to blame their partner for their own actions. For instance, they might say, "I wouldn't have gotten angry if you hadn't done that," or "You're the reason I act this way." This type of blame shifting suggests that their behavior is a justified response to their partner's actions, effectively absolving them of responsibility. It creates a dynamic where the victim feels they must constantly monitor their behavior to avoid provoking a negative reaction, leading to a cycle of walking on eggshells and self-blame. Another aspect of blaming others is minimizing or dismissing their own behavior while exaggerating or magnifying the partner's. For example, they may downplay their own hurtful comments as just a joke or not a big deal, while taking every opportunity to highlight and criticize their partner's mistakes or flaws. This double standard creates an imbalance where the toxic person feels free to act without consequences, while their partner is held to an unfair and higher standard. The effects of constant blame shifting are deeply damaging. Over time, the victim may begin to internalize the toxic person's accusations and genuinely believe they are the cause of all the problems in the relationship. This can lead to a loss of self-esteem, self-confidence, and a distorted sense of self. The constant need to defend themselves or prove their worth can be emotionally exhausting, causing anxiety, depression, and a sense of hopelessness. To break free from this toxic pattern, it is essential to recognize the manipulation and understand that the blame shifting is a deliberate tactic to avoid accountability. Setting boundaries and refusing to accept blame for actions that are not one's own are critical steps in addressing this issue. Seeking support from trusted friends, family, or a therapist can help provide clarity, perspective, and encouragement. Recognizing that someone who constantly blames others for their actions is avoiding personal growth and responsibility is key to understanding that the problem lies with them, not with you. 9. Shows lack of empathy or compassion. A clear indication of a toxic or harmful individual in a relationship is their consistent lack of empathy or compassion. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person, is fundamental to healthy, loving relationships. When a person lacks empathy, they fail to recognize or care about the emotional needs, experiences, and boundaries of their partner. This absence of empathy often leads to behaviors that are self-centered, cruel, or dismissive, which can cause deep emotional pain and damage to the victim. A person who shows a lack of empathy tends to prioritize their own feelings and needs above those of their partner. They are often unable or unwilling to see situations from the partner's perspective and may dismiss or invalidate their partner's feelings altogether. For example, if their partner is upset or distressed, instead of offering comfort or understanding, a person lacking empathy might say things like, "You're overreacting," "I don't see why you're so upset," or "It's not that big of a deal." These types of responses not only minimize the partner's emotions, but also imply that their feelings are unworthy of attention or care. This lack of empathy can also manifest as insensitivity during times of need or crisis. A toxic person who lacks empathy may show little concern when their partner is going through a difficult time, such as dealing with a loss, stress at work, or personal challenges. Instead of offering support or understanding, they may ignore the partner's emotional needs, focus on their own problems, or even become annoyed or angry that their partner is not paying enough attention to them. This behavior can leave the partner feeling alone, unsupported, and misunderstood during critical moments when they most need empathy and compassion. Another sign of a lack of empathy is a disregard for the partner's boundaries and comfort. A toxic individual might push their partner into situations or activities that they are uncomfortable with, without regard for how it affects them emotionally or physically. They might demand that their partner spend time with people they dislike, engage in activities they are not comfortable with, or even disregard physical boundaries. Their focus remains on what they want or what pleases them, often at the expense of their partner's well-being and autonomy. People who lack empathy also tend to be highly critical and judgmental. They often use harsh words, criticize their partner's choices or actions, and show little understanding or acceptance of differences in opinion or personality. They might make statements like, "I would never do that," "What's wrong with you?" or "Why can't you just handle things like I do?" This constant criticism can chip away at the partner's self-esteem and self-worth, making them feel inadequate or flawed. A lack of empathy can also be observed in how a toxic person handles conflict. Instead of trying to understand their partner's perspective or work toward a resolution that considers both parties' needs, They may only focus on winning the argument or getting their way. They might refuse to listen, invalidate the partner's feelings, or turn the conversation around to make it about their grievances. This creates a communication barrier and prevents any genuine resolution, fostering resentment and emotional distance. The impact of being in a relationship with someone who lacks empathy can be profound. Over time, the partner who is subjected to this behavior may feel emotionally drained, isolated, and unimportant. They may start to doubt their own feelings, needs, and perceptions, internalizing the toxic person's lack of care as a reflection of their own worth. Recognizing a lack of empathy early in a relationship is crucial for maintaining one's emotional health. It's important to understand that empathy and compassion are essential for a healthy, balanced relationship, and a lack of these qualities is a major red flag. Establishing clear boundaries, seeking external support, and not allowing oneself to be minimized or dismissed are key steps in addressing this issue. If someone consistently shows a lack of empathy or compassion, it is a strong indicator that the relationship is unhealthy and potentially harmful. 10. Isolates you from friends and family. Isolation from friends and family is a common tactic used by toxic or harmful individuals in relationships to gain control over their partner. By cutting off their partner's access to external support systems, they can increase their influence and control, making it easier to manipulate and dominate the relationship. This behavior is a significant red flag, as it not only shows a lack of respect for their partner's autonomy, but also sets the stage for potential emotional, psychological, and even physical abuse. One of the ways toxic individuals isolate their partners is by creating rifts between them and their friends or family members. They may start by subtly criticizing the partner's loved ones, saying things like, "I don't think your friends really care about you," or "Your family doesn't understand us." These negative comments are designed to sow seeds of doubt and mistrust, making the partner question the loyalty and intentions of those around them. Over time, the toxic person may escalate their efforts by insisting that the partner spends less time with their loved ones, suggesting they are a negative influence or causing problems in the relationship. Another tactic involves creating conflicts or drama around social interactions. A toxic partner might become angry or resentful whenever their partner spends time with friends or family, accusing them of not prioritizing the relationship or implying that they are choosing others over them. They might say things like, "You'd rather be with them than me," or "If you loved me, you'd want to spend all your time with me." These guilt-tripping statements are designed to make the partner feel bad about maintaining their outside relationships, and to encourage them to distance themselves from those who could provide support or perspective. Manipulative individuals may also isolate their partners by monopolizing their time and attention. They may demand constant companionship, text or call incessantly when the partner is out, or become overly dependent on them for emotional support. This behavior creates a dynamic where the partner feels obligated to cater to the toxic person's needs, leaving little time or energy for maintaining other relationships. Over time, the partner may start to withdraw from friends and family simply because it seems easier than dealing with the toxic person's reactions. Jealousy and possessiveness often play a significant role in isolation tactics. A toxic person may express jealousy over their partner's relationships with others, questioning their motives or insinuating that those relationships are somehow inappropriate or threatening to the romantic relationship. They might say things like, "I don't trust that friend of yours," or "Why do you need to talk to them when you have me?" These insinuations can make the partner feel guilty or anxious about maintaining those friendships, leading them to distance themselves to avoid conflict. The toxic person may also use more direct forms of isolation, such as forbidding the partner from seeing certain people or attending social events. They might use threats, anger, or even ultimatums to enforce these restrictions, making the partner feel trapped and powerless to maintain their social connections. This overt control tactic is a clear sign of an abusive dynamic and can lead to a sense of entrapment and dependency. The effects of isolation are deeply damaging. When someone is cut off from friends and family, they lose vital sources of emotional support, perspective, and validation. This isolation can lead to feelings of loneliness, anxiety, and depression, as well as increased dependency on the toxic partner for emotional needs. Without external input, the partner may find it harder to recognize the toxic behavior for what it is and may begin to accept the manipulator's distorted version of reality. Breaking free from isolation requires recognizing the manipulative tactics being used and understanding that healthy relationships encourage and support outside connections. Reestablishing contact with friends and family, seeking support from trusted individuals, and setting firm boundaries with the toxic partner are essential steps in regaining control and autonomy. If a partner is actively trying to isolate you from your support network, it is a significant indicator that the relationship is unhealthy and potentially dangerous. Recognizing the warning signs of a toxic person is not just about ending a bad relationship. It's about taking control of your life and refusing to be a pawn in someone else's manipulative game. The behaviors we've discussed today, whether it's constant manipulation, blame shifting, isolating you from loved ones, or displaying a lack of empathy, are not just quirks or flaws. They are red flags that reveal deeper, more dangerous patterns of behavior that can undermine your confidence, destroy your peace, and leave lasting scars on your mental and emotional health. Remember, you deserve a relationship built on mutual respect, trust, empathy, and genuine care. If you recognize any of these signs in your current relationship, it's crucial to take a step back, reflect, and consider what's truly best for you. Protect your heart and mind from those who seek to control, manipulate, or diminish you. Trust your instincts, set firm boundaries, and don't be afraid to seek support from those who care about you. True love is about upliftment, understanding, and growth, not fear, control, or manipulation. Stay vigilant, stay strong, and always know your worth. The power to create a life filled with healthy, loving relationships is in your hands.